heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life.
Welcome everyone to Charlotte IoT. I'm stoked for another awesome meeting tonight with Iris from Lowe's. I've been wanting them to speak for a long time, so I'm really stoked that they're able to do it. And they're local too, so it's like even better. And Charlotte IoT, if you don't know us, we're about 1,500 people. We totally rock. We've done 58 meetings, and we focus on technical presentations and workshops, and a lot of meetings like this today. The reason this group is amazing is we've got so many active people. Here's our board, and there's 10 of us who are contributing just ridiculous amounts of time, doing amazing things. And we've got like 5 events going on in the next month. It's just like really amazing stuff that's going on, and this board is incredible. We have Facebook and Instagram, and is Graham here? No. We always love it when people mention us on social media and YouTube. So Joseph is back tonight. Paul is still recording us. We had a conflict, and thank you, Joseph, for recording this. You always do an amazing job, and we always really appreciate it. But it's an easy URL to remember. It's YouTube/Charlotte IoT, and we've got tons of videos on there. And what's amazing is when you're amazed with the content tonight, you can like watch it over and over again at your leisure. Get your friends to watch it, and or if you can't make the meeting, you can watch it streaming wherever you are. And we're working on getting the north side of town, the Lake Norman area, with a room that we can stream content. The same content we're doing in our meeting will be streamed up there, so people on the north side of town won't have to travel all the way here, because we're filling this room to capacity. And I love it. We're getting more than 100 people registering for our big meetings. And so these meetings are awesome, and so we want to share the love on the north side of town. Stay tuned on that, and we'll be posting things. Twitter. So we love getting your love on Twitter. At Charlotte IoT is who we are. And when you registered on Meetup, if you enter your profile information with your email address, then you'll get an invite to Slack. Thank you, Mike, for setting that up. And on Slack is another great place for everyone to talk. There's a whole bunch of awesome, like really experienced people you can ask questions. And if you want help with something, they're a great resource to ask questions to. If you need help testing or anything, the group is really awesome to ask questions to. And for tonight, we've got a couple sponsors. I should have put Lowe's on here. Thank you guys for coming. And my company is Logical Advantage. I've got a commercial I'm going to do in a second, and we paid for dinner. And Snap AV hosts this awesome venue. Is Graham here? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yep. Graham, can you do your commercial?
How many first-timers here? Oh, good turnout. So, quick commercial about Snap AV. We are a company that manufactures about 3,000 different products for the audio-video market. So our customers are the professionals that go into the home and install home theater systems. That's extended through the years to surveillance systems and networking and all of that. My job specifically here, I run the Oversee team. Oversee is a software platform that we started building about 5 years ago that takes all the IP-connected products that our customers install in the home, connect them to their cloud, and allows them to remotely manage them. So that comes in kind of the brands you see up here, whether it's our Wattbox IP line, Arachnus is our networking line, or Luma is our surveillance line, and then a host of third-party products. So we just crossed 2 million devices we have connected to our cloud, so it was a big milestone a couple months ago, but that's kind of us as a whole. Restrooms, kind of housekeeping, are straight down to the end of the hall and kind of take a right, you'll find. So, but thank you all for coming tonight.
Awesome. Yeah. every time Graham speaks, he always mentions there's another 100,000 devices connected into Oversea. And I always joke around that if you can't work for Snap AV, then, or not if you can't, but if you're looking for work, my company Logical Advantage is another great company to look for, and Snap AV is also amazing.
Much cooler than us.
Yeah. And we do some really epic IoT projects. Here's an older one that we did for the city of Toronto, where we put RFID tags on all the trash and recycle bins, more than 1 million of them. It's now been rolled out to 130 cities, and that was really cool. Some other really cool ones, we're really focusing on manufacturing, and we did one, I forgot the demo unit this time, but I did remember to bring the PCB. We made this PCB, and we're using the Particle P1. It's a module from Particle on it that we can push updates to it over the air, and each one of these units can monitor 24 spindles in the factory, and we're doing things to help them know what the utilization is of the whole factory, and then later on we're going to do things like machine learning, predicting failure, and that type of thing. And Particle actually wrote up a really cool case study. If you go to blog Particle.io, you can read a really cool case study on us. I won't close.
Are we still meeting in the auditorium? Yes. We are still meeting in the auditorium.
What's that? Snap came up, or the yeah. So I was talking about how awesome Slack was. I'm not sure why it came up automatically, but
machine learning. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's really sweet. But there's a really cool case study that Particle wrote for us on the project we did. That was really cool. And we're always hiring, especially if you're in DevOps. We're about 4 people short right now. So please come talk to me at the end of the meeting or anytime during the meeting. And we'd love some help if you guys do DevOps. And if you do other types of work, still talk to me. We may not be looking for that right now, but we're always hiring different types of people. And we're a fun company to work for. So we've got a lot going on, and the next one is Nordic Semiconductor. And Nordic makes really cool modules that they're like the inventors of Bluetooth. And they're going to be talking about 2.4 gigahertz devices. And one thing on 2.4 gigahertz is Thread. They've got a really cool module that Particle is using on their 3rd generation devices. That's a Nordic module, and we're proposing it for some of our solutions. But Nordic's a really great company, and the spots are limited. We only have room for 40, and after we get 40, you can't register. So if you want to go to this, make sure you jump on Meetup and register, because it'll fill up and you won't be able to come. That's the 9th. And then the very next day, there's 2 more lunch and learns. And this is, I don't know if I mentioned, but we're doing a partnership with the Riot Group. And all the lunch and learns are facilitated by the Riot Group. And I'm usually at them, kicking off the meetings and that sort of thing. But the content and the presenters and everything is coming out of Riot, and they're the regional Internet of Things. And one thing that they do is really cool is their accelerator program. It's a 12-week program. If you have an idea, they'll mentor you, and they've got every connection in the world to help you be successful. So not only we get mentorship, they've got Riot Labs that are up in the Raleigh area where you can get help on building what you need to build. And then any mentoring and guidance, they know everybody. If they can't help you themselves, they'll help you for that. So if you have an idea and you want to turn it into a product, you want to go to both of these meetings, because the second one is how do you get money for that product, which if you don't know how to get money, as none of us do, so come to that meeting. And then the Mini Maker Faire. This is something that we've always been epic at, and last year we had about 20 volunteers, and we're doing some really cool things, like we make t-shirts, and we give away t-shirts to the first X number of volunteers. We may not have enough for everybody, but we're looking for all kinds of help for the Maker Faire, because we do a big production, and we need help Friday night setting up, and you can register on Meetup to help out. We've got 9 people registered so far. But anything you guys wanted, any one of these 5 things, let us know which of the 5 you can help us with so we can help plan better and we can help kind of distribute. People can see what other people have volunteered for to help distribute what's there. But we have a lot of people who will be there all day and at our booth. And we don't need you to be there all day, though. If you want to just be there for a couple hours, then just on the meetup site say the time period that you can be there. And because we know you guys have a life and you've got kids and they've got sporting events and everything else going on. Bring your kids, bring everyone to the Maker Faire because it's totally epic. And is Rob here? We're going to facilitate a workshop, and the workshop is with the what's that kit called again, Joseph? The Adafruit Circuit Playground. And we've done it before at a few other places, and it's a really great workshop for people who have like no exposure to IoT. It is like 0 to building something awesome in a really quick lab where people will leave excited that they built something that lights up and it looks amazing. You guys will definitely want to bring your kids, and also please volunteer because we need lots of help. And Jeremy, can you talk about the Civic Hackathon? And I haven't put this on the meetup site yet. It's my fault. I'll try to post it tomorrow. And Jeremy's going to remind me every day until I get it up there.
I'm not kidding either. Our hackathons are kind of epic. But what we're doing is absolutely, without a doubt, just so cool. We get in here and we get to talk about all of these cool IoT technologies, and we want to be able to say, hey, let's build something, right? And there's no better way to know that you know what you're doing, that you've learned something, than to actually sit down and go, oh my gosh, it actually works, right? I've been pushed my own personal boundaries, what I'm comfortable doing, and that was for me very, very cool. And I think a lot of other people have felt the same thing in these hackathons. So we are going to be working November 3rd on an Alexa application, kind of interesting in that we basically want to build an MP3 player that works in Alexa. Why? Because custom content sometimes isn't available for disabled people. So let's say you want to put 30 of your favorite sermons on a device. Make it voice accessible, right? Very, very simple. Okay, so on the IT end, we look at, hey, we're going to host these files somewhere. We're going to put a JSON file out there that references the files, and now we can kind of abstract the whole thing away so that now we can have this thing here that this person we can serve up, religious content, and this person over here we can serve up like, I don't know, favorite quotes or old time radio shows or whatever. And we can put those things online for people, provide them something that they can't get normally. And believe it or not, I've searched. There's no MP3 player out there for Alexa. And you're like, why? It's so stupid simple to do, right? So we're going to do it. We're going to do it November 3rd. I've got some working prototype stuff done. For those who don't know, I've released Alexa applications for myself. I've done the one for LendingTree, so I have a little bit of skin in the game. I know this much, which is not a lot.
This much.
But, yeah, well. But the cool thing is that I need people to help. I need everyone here to help because there's going to be times when we're going to say, how do we want this to work? And I'll go, well, I think we should work this way. And then obviously if my wife was there, she would tell me 13 reasons why I wasn't going to work that way. So by getting everyone together and having that collaboration, we can really put together something that is absolutely going to help people. We're going to need some help, a little bit of coding help, a little bit of usability help, a little bit of, just helping us find different content and stuff that we want to put out there. And then, things as simple as, would like somebody just to write up a piece of paper that says this is how it works. So we can download a PDF and we can give it out to people that we give this skill to. So we've got a lady who we targeted to give this to. We've worked with her in the past a little bit on Alexa. And she's now controlling her TV with Alexa. She's able to communicate now better with Alexa, talking back and forth with people in the house. And next thing we're going to do is give her a thermostat so she can control the temperature, in the house with the voice. And for people who don't have physical dexterity, but can still talk, this is an amazing thing to be able to do. So this is our conglomeration of being able to take what we learn, make something really cool, give back to the community, and not only get that, wow, it works, but oh my gosh, look what we can actually accomplish out of it. So I ask you all to come. November 3rd, it's going to be at Lending Tree. We're going to meet at 9 a.m. Lending Tree is going to buy pizza or salads, if you're not the pizza kind of person. We have a whole place to ourselves. We'll run around, make a ruckus, and hopefully build something really, really cool. So I hope you're all there. If you can't make it and you still want to contribute, let me know. There's always things we're doing, always things we're trying to do. So it's epic. I hope everyone gets to come.
Awesome. Yeah, we're so appreciative of everything Jeremy and Lending Tree is doing with the hackathons. They're like incredible. And so it's a great way to learn, contribute. It's like a win-win-win everywhere. So thank you for that. We got another epic meeting next month for our main event. It's Google and the Google Cloud. And so you guys won't want to miss that. Make sure you tell all your friends to come because it's, yeah.
You'll have it at their site?
I didn't ask them, so I don't know. Probably not because of the late, we've already posted the meeting and everything. But maybe we'll do a follow-up meeting at their site. And that's a really good question because our December meeting is at Microsoft. And we're hoping to make a big announcement because it's looking like we're going to get someone from Seattle to come down who's like a top person at Microsoft, who's very publicly well-known. Everyone will love this meeting, and we'll only have whatever the fire code is for the room. So you guys will definitely want to sign up for that as quick as you can because they'll probably have to cap it at 120 or something like that. So that'll be another really great meeting. And then our main event tonight, Laura is the operations manager from Lowe's, and she's going to kick off the meeting, review the products, and then Christopher, who I originally met, is going to talk about some technical content with Z-Wave and all the radios and communications and onboarding devices onto Iris. We really appreciate you guys coming, and thanks a lot.
Is it hardware, software, or both? Well, chances are you already have it in your pocket. It might be on your wrist. Recently popular are fitness bands with accelerometers and gyroscopes to monitor our activities and heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life. What is the Internet of Things? Is it hardware, software, or both?
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Mitchell. I'm the operations manager for Iris. I have been with Lowe's for now 8 years, been with Iris for about 3 years. And I oversee our contact center for all our support for Iris, as well as store training. That's a big part of it. And then also corporate communications. Anything that's customer facing, that's where my role is. So before we get started, the most important part, does everybody have a raffle ticket? If not, Chris. And then you ask, what is the raffle for? So, oh, you just split it down? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just split it down. No, just make sure you keep one part. I learned the hard way. Okay. Yeah. That was a fun game. Okay, so we're going to do 4 raffles tonight. Okay, so the first raffle, actually the first 2 are for Wi-Fi smart switches. Okay, you don't need a hub for it at all. It's great to turn. Actually, it's a great starter for Iris. You can turn on and off something. Okay, think your Christmas tree, something like that. So it's a great way to get started with Iris. Those are 2 of the raffles. We're also going to raffle off an indoor-outdoor camera, which is great. So I have one in my garage, one outside. The night vision's really good on it, so it's great. And then this will actually come with a hub. A hub is required for the camera. And then the last raffle we're going to do is for the professional monitoring kit, which includes a hub. Basically, the hub is the heart or the brains of Iris. It includes a contact sensor, something to arm or disarm your alarm, and a motion sensor. So in itself, it's basically, essentially a security system. Small, okay? Anybody else have any questions? Get with Chris if you need a raffle ticket, okay? We'll go ahead and start. So with Iris, so who has heard of Iris before? That's always a good one. Good, this is good, it's very good, okay. So Iris is Lowe's, and Lowe's is Iris. So a lot of people have misconceptions around who is Iris. So all of Iris employees are Lowe's employees. Okay. Most of our developers are out in Kansas. Most of the corporate office is mainly marketing and operations. But I would say about maybe 50 or so are out in Kansas, and they're all Lowe's employees. Okay. So that's good to know. So Iris is Lowe's smart home and security platform. Okay, we own the technology, we own the employees. Okay, with Iris you can control all your devices from anywhere. Okay, a lot of people don't realize we have over 200 devices that we integrate with. So a lot of devices. So Iris has 16 or 17 core Iris products, and then we integrate with a lot of third parties, which we'll go over, and I'm sure you'll be very familiar with a lot of them. Okay. We do offer, 200 devices. We are available in Lowe's stores. Lowes.com, you'll probably see the most of the breadth of Iris products is on Lowes.com, and then you'll see some on Amazon as well. We integrate with protocols such as ZigBee, Z-Wave, which you have heard before, so cloud-to-cloud, dealing with Nest and Honeywell and so forth. We have 3 service level offerings, okay? One is free, basic. It's free. It has rules and scenes and favorites. That's a free service. So you buy your hub, you buy a couple devices, and you can stay on the free service, okay? We also have premium, which is $9.99 a month. It's actually more around camera storage. So if you're going to add your cameras and you want to record clips and so forth, it would be the $9.99. And a big distinction is we rolled out professional monitoring over about a year ago. Okay, so professional monitoring is just that. Some of our Iris customers prefer to self-monitor, and that's completely fine. And you can do that on the basic and the premium. However, on the professional monitoring is when you're integrating with the authorities. So smoke, CO, panic, burglary, and all that. So it depends on what you're looking for. We have a service for you depending on what your needs are, what your use case is. So anybody have any questions around that at all? Yes?
The professional monitoring has a cellular backup. Is the cellular cost included in that, or is that extra?
So the cellular backup, that does include it. It does not include the actual modem itself. That's a one-time fee. I think it's $100. You purchase it online, and then with the professional monitoring, it includes a service.
Okay, but you don't have like an AT&T bill or anything like that?
No, it's included. Awesome. Yep.
With the basic, you get like cameras, that they get email alerts and stuff from the cameras?
You can live stream. And we're actually changing that in the process right now. Currently, you can live stream. Okay.
I'm going to talk more about that.
Yeah. So On the basic, right. So Chris will talk more about that, but as it stands now, you can live stream. If you wanted to record clips, that's more around the $9.99 a month. Okay. And the Iris Smart Hub. So most of you are familiar with Iris, which helps. So the hub is the heart or the brains. That's what I had mentioned before. The hub does have an integrated battery backup on it. We talked about the 4G backup, which you had mentioned in the back. So if your broadband is intermittent, it will fail over to the 4G, and that's helpful for a lot. We support ZigBee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, and we, of course, work with Alexa and Google, which is great. A lot of people, so with Google and Alexa, there's pretty much parity between the two. You can control your lights and switches, your doors and locks, and your thermostat, okay? Anybody have any questions around that slide? Yes?
Will you be adding Thread next?
Chris?
So we, this particular hub, how do I tell you? So we were told originally by our chip provider that the chip that's in there will support dual network, Thread, and ZigBee. And then we were later told that that's no longer true. So this hub does not have support for Thread. On the plus side there, we haven't really gotten much of a demand for Thread devices, but I can talk more about this on my slides.
Okay. So usually when a customer is coming into Lowe's, they're trying to satisfy one of two use cases, right? It's either security or home automation. It could be both, but it's pretty distinct. So currently, we do have a security pack, which is more minded around security, obviously. If you want to do the professional monitoring, this is geared more for that. And then we do have another pack. It's more around lighting and home automation. That's a big one, too. Some people just want to control their lights and just the home automation piece of it. And then once you get the hub, then you can add other devices to that. And the beauty of Iris, I'm very passionate about it because it's an app that I can't live without. It's something that I have to look at probably 3 or 4 times a day, you know. So I use it on a daily basis. It's something it's very integral with our family, so it's important. But the one emphasis that I want to put on that is over 200 devices that we integrate with, you can access it all through one app, okay? And that's a big distinction in this market. So you don't have to open up a separate app for Kwikset or your garage door controller. You have one app to control all your 200 plus devices, okay? And it's DIY, so as your needs change, as your use cases change, maybe you're, from family with kids to empty nesters, Iris actually transitions with you and grows throughout. So some new products and services. So I'm excited. This will be coming out in the next 30 days. We do have so this is more of a preview for you guys. So we do have a new hub. It is Wi-Fi. So it's going to help with the pairing process and so forth. And it does have an LED ring around that. So that's a big distinction. With the Wi-Fi, that will help. You don't have to put it next to your router per se. You can put it in a central spot and really have your network work for you, right? Also, talk about so we have an indoor Wi-Fi smart plug, and we also have a outdoor Wi-Fi smart plug. And these are great for seasonal decorations and so forth, anything you want to turn on and off. Now there's interior and exterior. New motion and contact sensor. I think this is my favorite, smart plug. Not just because it's a smart plug, but you can put 2 in one outlet now, and I think that's important. And then our battery operated camera. So this is a big one. A lot of our customers were looking for cameras of different price points, different capabilities, something to monitor their perimeter of their home. And now they can do that. Before it required a power source. So this is nice. So it has rechargeable batteries in it. I wish I actually brought the product. I didn't. But it has a nice magnet on it. If you wanted to permanently fixture it somewhere, you could do that. If not, it just uses the magnet. It's very, very strong. Yes?
Are you guys going to be adding solar to those, like the ring?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, we don't have a specific plan to do that right now.
I have heard, I have heard, but not within our team. So.
But it's probably something that we could work with. I mean, it's a standard 5-volt plug that we could we source something that did work with it.
So it should be, all these products should be available within, I would say, the next 30 days online. They'll slowly trickle into stores after that. But I think the key takeaway is the Wi-Fi hub. That's going to be very helpful. And the battery operated camera, that will be very nice, especially if you want to, again, monitor areas in which you don't have power, which there is a lot of. And the fact that all these smart plugs, now you can put 2 in 1 outlet, where before it was a little bit more difficult to do that. So that's exciting. So those are all our version 3 products, and those are coming out, like I said, very, very soon. Anybody have any questions around version 3? Yes?
The camera, is that outdoors too?
Yes. Yes.
How long does that battery last?
It depends. It's going to depend on the motion. So it has a built-in motion. So if you're going to put it in areas in which you have a lot of leaves blowing, shadows, you're going to have to charge it. So it's based on the use case. So.
Testing that we've seen about 2 to 3 weeks.
And I imagine some people just want to, when they leave their home, maybe they just want to put the camera up then. They could do that. But yeah, just like anything, with that built-in motion, it's going to deplete the battery a little bit more depending on how much activity is being used. So. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just going to ask if it had
Yeah.
any onboard storage on it, like for an SD card.
No. Also has, one-way audio. That's important too. Sorry, forgot to note that. Yeah. So what are rules? Most people, I'm sure, are aware of what rules are. We have a lot of pre-formed rules, which are very helpful. For instance, if-then statements, right? So, for instance, I have a contact sensor, motion sensor in my freezer, not because I care about motion in my freezer, but because it has a temperature reading in it. So if the temperature in my freezer gets above a certain point, to send me a push notification, right? So if then. If you open the door, the light comes on and so forth. But you can be very creative around rules. You can make the devices work together. And to add on to that is scenes. So you have a group of devices working together to have one outcome, one desired outcome. For instance, I'm home scene or I'm going away scene. So you can actually shut down your house or, depending on what you're looking for. So I have a good night scene that runs at 8 o'clock and then 10 o'clock just in case. Garage door goes down, thermostat adjust, and so forth. Lights turn out, doors lock. Yeah?
Are you making the if-then decision locally in the hub or in the cloud, or where is that?
I don't know.
In 90% of cases, it's in the cloud. We do support professional monitoring cases to get sirens to go off locally, but that's really about it. I mentioned professional monitoring. Obviously, we can't notify the police if you don't have an internet connection, but we
At least
we do
make the sounds.
Yeah, we do make sirens go off and all that. So all the security aspect is local.
And that's a good distinction. Also, I have one right now. So I do have a halo in my house, and if the halo senses smoke or CO, the doors automatically unlock. So those type of things. We have a lot of preformed rules, and then scenes. You can be very creative around those. So I'm sure you guys have heard about rules and scenes, but sometimes it's good just to understand what other people are applying to their household. So.
Now we're about to break into your house.
Yeah. Smoke. Yeah. That'll do it. Yes.
Just because you mentioned the garage door, so I looked at MyQ as automation originally for garage door, and I see on the Iris community forum they talk about the MyQ still not being part of Iris because MyQ didn't want to, and the company behind it didn't want to accept the risk of putting down the garage door on command. Iris has a universal garage door controller. Is there any safety issues with remotely putting down your garage door?
So we actually have 2 devices that support it, and there's UL restrictions around how those devices operate. So the devices themselves have some pressure level about how much they can push.
Sure, garage door itself might have an interlock.
Right. And then the other things that the automatic control has to support is an audible beep for, I forget how many seconds, like 8-9 seconds of audible beeping in the local area. And then if it fails twice, meaning it locally says, nope, I'm not going down, it is cut off. And now you have to locally operate it I think it's actually twice. You have to locally operate it before the remote can kick in again. So those are the safety measures, but again, those are UL safety measures, not ours.
Sure.
And we made sure that UL was followed.
And just a follow-up question to that, I was really interested less in the remote control of the door and more in the remote sensing of the door status. And I don't see a good, except on eBay, a sensor that incorporates with Iris to tell you the door status, the tilt, if you will.
It's got a tilt sensor in the box.
Yeah, so
You can't, yeah.
So
The one that they sent?
I actually had to buy a new one because mine, I lost the battery and I lost the sensor.
yeah, so I effectively agree. I have a pretty expensive system that I got, and it's just for remote monitoring. You know, I mean, I guess if I forgot and we were at home, I would obviously push the button. But we do actually sell a nice tilt sensor. It's online only, I believe, and it's 20 some odd
And
dollars.
is that Lowe's Iris branded?
No, it's
No,
nice.
it's nice.
It's nice.
NYC
Yeah.
branded. It's a Canadian company. It's CoinCell. I don't think the batteries last all that long, but the device works as described.
And even if you didn't want to invest in a garage door controller, even with that device, you could at least understand if your garage door is open or closed. So
I would recommend, well, what it sounds like we're both doing, put some extra money into the system, because if you do leave the house and you forgot to close the door, then okay, now you have to turn around, and for a couple extra bucks, you could just push the button.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can still do that, it's just that it's a separate system than Iris. Yeah.
I see, yeah.
And even with the nice, I use that on my mailbox. So yes, I do care
Yeah, lots of other
when my
applications
mail
on that.
comes. So
Another
I
thing
have.
I'd just say about MyQ, before I forget to add it later.
Oh, you're fine.
They have a number of patents in the space of wireless controlled garage doors. So that's another reason why they don't like to integrate with other people. They are attempting to monetize their apps and everything else. So they're a tough company to work with.
So I think it's just understanding the devices that we have and then kind of being creative with, how you could use those differently. For instance, I told you about like the motion and contact sensors have temperature readings in them. How can you use that for a different use case, right? So I wanted to take you through the products. We don't have to go through each and every one, but at least highlight the products that we have, because I think it's eye-opening to see all the products that integrate with Iris currently. So we talked about the camera, and somebody will walk home with the camera today. So. Some other key devices, we talked about Google and Alexa. We talked about smoke and CO. That's important because with the Halo especially, it tells you that with the Halo Plus, it tells you the National Weather Advisory. So weather alerts and warnings will come through that. And then you can tie those smoke and CO detection to rules. And again, if smoke or CO is detected, open the doors, turn on the lights, and so forth. So you can really make it work for you. The siren is just audible. It's just going to be very loud. And Chris talked about with local, it's just going to hopefully impede or deter the burglar from coming into your home, right? So it's just going to make a loud noise. If you don't have professional monitoring. So if you do, that's fine too. What were you going to say?
Well, either way, the siren will go off.
Yeah, either way. But if you do, if you are self-monitoring, that's just one extra step, just to make it very loud. And if somebody is breaking into your home, they can hear something. And
just to follow up on that, the sensors are actually so loud that when they're going off, if you don't shut them off or whatever, it's actually painful to be in the same room near a sensor. If you've got more than one, you can fill an entire house full of painful sound.
Yes. So. I can attest to that. You almost want to run, just take it off the wall and run out of the house with it.
I keep a key fob with me, but if you forget to set, if you have like a downstairs program and an upstairs program, and you alarm your house and then you walk into your sensors, your sensors will go off and you will hear it.
Oh yes.
And then you'll have to fumble for your key fob to shut off your system, and it takes at least a second or two. And you'll experience painful sound.
Yes. So a siren is good and bad,
right? Also add professional monitoring to that, right? If you make the false alarm, I sat there at the keypad typing the wrong number in for 10 seconds while the siren's blaring at me, my baby's crying, and the police are gonna come if I don't get this right soon.
Yes, and then you have the professional monitoring company calling you, and yes. So, that's the nice tilt sensor. that we had referenced in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's a nice tilt sensor. Nice also has a hinge sensor as well. It works almost like a contact sensor. It shows whether the door is open or closed. The technology is actually embedded in the hardware itself, so you don't have to have a contact sensor on it. So it does one and the same.
So that's actually a hinge replacement?
You just replace.
Out and insert that.
You replace one of the hinges with a smart hinge, and then.
Add to that, I have motion sensors and contact sensors all over my house, and my wife hates them. This would at least hide them.
Yeah.
But I'm too
I
lazy
think
to install them.
you know, a lot of people are looking for the concealed look, right? I mean, the technology being in the hardware, so they don't have something sticking out on their windows or doors. So it's just another option for you. So this, oh, go ahead.
The glass break sensor, do you have to have one per window, or is it unidirectional for like one per room?
It's proximity.
Well, so it's unidirectional,
Yeah.
but it is really proximity based. I believe it's rated at about 16 or 17 feet kind of thing, so they recommend sort of a linear foot along the wall with the windows that you probably will need 2 or 3 depending on how big those windows are. Or how many windows you have across, because I guess, yeah.
And then the last slide was focused more on security. This is more around home automation, although some of them could work the other way as well. So you have access. We integrate with Kwikset, Yale, and Schlage, so some of the top 3 keyless door locks. We talked about garage door controllers, and then thermostats are a big one. With Alexa and Google, you can control your thermostat using your voice. So it's great. I use it all the time, and it really provides that wow factor. I mean, it's very quick. So we integrate, I guess, a recent integration Nest within the past, I would say, past year and a half. We're actually integrating with Lux thermostat. We have several Honeywell, and we have a Go Control thermostat. So we have several that you can choose from. Different price points, of course. Electrical, we have a lot of in-wall switches, GE Jasco. I didn't bring any today with me, but we do have quite a bit from everything from fan controllers to outlets to switches. So we have a big range for electrical. And that's more of a permanent option. So if you're looking for that use case in which maybe you're an apartment dweller, right, and you really can't do any permanent install, you probably would want to do more of a smart plug than an in-wall switch. So we have different means to satisfy what you're trying to do. Irrigation, we have the 12 zone. We also have a hose timer. And then lighting, we have several products there. So we integrate, so these are Philips Hue. It does require a Philips Hue bridge, so just note that, but it's fun. Again, you can control it through Alexa or Alexa and Google. We'll try it, okay? Hey Google, turn all lights blue. There we go. I was gonna do it versus Chris, so in case it didn't work, I get the blame. But it's fun, it's fun. And people are looking for that wow factor. I would say it's, with the lights, the keyless door locks, the thermostat, and so forth. So lights are fun. That's cabinet strip lighting. It provides like a nice illumination around your cabinets. You can put it behind your TV and so forth. And then this is actually a smart bulb right here that's down here. I'm not going to unplug it. But again, it's a temporary option, right? You don't have to put the in-wall switch in. You can just screw a smart bulb in. And whether you're in an apartment or a home, you can satisfy that. So we integrate with Osram, Philips Hue, we talked about that, Singlid. What else am I missing? I think those are the 3, right? Oh, Lutron. And
Yeah, I'm going to highlight that separately as well.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, don't mean to steal yours. And then dimmer plugs. So we have smart plugs. So we have smart plugs, dimmer plugs, depending on what you want to do. So this is off, very easy. Just plug it in. Plug it in. You can control anything through your phone, on, off. And then water and energy, we have blinds. We have a leak sensor, which Chris will demo for you later, which is great. I travel a lot doing store training and so forth, and I've been indicated, throughout I've received an alert, my husband has, and it's, a couple inches of water on the floor. So, boom, I get the alert, he gets alert, and so it's powerful. And the install's so easy, you can place it anywhere. So it's like, why not? And then you can tie it to other devices and really make that very, very powerful kind of work for you. Any other questions at all? Oh, the water shutoff valve, we talked about that. I think those are the big products. I want to go ahead and transition it over to Chris. So I guess we're going to take a break.
So thank you very much, Laura. It was a great sort of introduction to what Iris can do. Now, what I'm going to do is try to dig in a little bit to what I do, which is devices. So I'm the device. I don't really have a title. It's like it's literally like consultant or something like that, even though I'm an employee. But it's basically device guru has been suggested to me, or standards protocol wrangler was another one. Protocol wrangler was one. So I haven't decided yet, so my business card still says something lame on it, I think. Yeah, so to your point, we strive for 100% standards-based, and I'll get into some exceptions to that, which are actually what I like to do. ZigBee HA is where we mostly do, so all these devices you see here that are Iris branded are ZigBee, obviously with the exceptions of the things we say are Wi-Fi. Another thing I just want to highlight, the Wi-Fi things work without a hub. So that's another piece why we like them, because sometimes buying that hub is this bridge too far, especially when you're in the store or whatever, but okay, I can buy this smart plug or whatever, especially as Laura was noting too, for a Christmas tree or for an inflatable at Halloween. And then with the app, I can just quickly schedule it and be done with it. Yeah, so ZigBee HA is where we are today. These new devices are also ZigBee 3.0 compliant. I don't know if you know what that is. It's basically ZigBee HA with a bunch of new stuff added to it, in particular device-specific link keys. So ZigBee HA had a joining hole in it, a security hole, that if someone was actually sniffing you at the time you were pairing devices, it joins with a well-known link key. So basically anyone can just grab your network key. And Z-Wave is just as bad. These new devices actually plug that hole. So each of the devices are pairing with a specific, with a unique link key, and we can either use a barcode reader or other means that we have of getting that code into the hub, and then only that device can join, and nobody sniffing can figure out what that is. And I say nobody, obviously, it's encryption. So with enough supercomputers, they could probably figure it out someday. So that's what we focus all our devices on. As far as us supporting, we also support Z-Wave. Right now we do device by device Z-Wave support. We are working on right now 100% Z-Wave compliance. The main thing that's going to get you guys is if you have a Z-Wave system now, let's say you're using Vera, you can then add our hub as a secondary controller and then use the Vera system to give our hub control over that, and then you can throw away your Vera hub. And vice versa. You can switch off of Iris as well. That's one of the big selling points of Z-Wave is you can try out all the different hubs and see which one you like better, try out all the different apps. To be frank, that's actually why we didn't support it as well at first. But now they're kind of coming after us to support that. We do have a Bluetooth chip in both of these hubs. Right now it's not on. Some of our vendors are big on Bluetooth mesh lights. And it is a really cool thing. You're in the store, you can literally download an app and then control the Bluetooth light that's right there in front of you, and that seems kind of neat. But then as soon as you leave the house, you can't turn that light on if you forgot. You don't even know what state of the light is on your phone. So you need to then get some kind of a gateway device, and a lot of the chips are still slightly not 100% standard. CSR has a little bit of an advantage for various reasons. So anyway, we will support this someday, but we don't right now. And then I already mentioned Wi-Fi. I will mention just a little bit of pairing complexity there. Obviously you have an access point, it's got security on it. You have to somehow get that security information into the device. And that is kind of complicated. Bluetooth being in your phone, that does help. Our new devices actually do all support Bluetooth pairing. iOS devices in particular make it a little bit hard for us to turn Bluetooth on, yada, yada, yada. We walk you through doing that if it's not on. And on most people's phone, to be honest, it is actually already on. They have enough Bluetooth speakers out there where that is pretty smooth for most users. But when it's not on, it's a little awkward. You got to tell the user, okay, go here and then go there and change your settings and then come back. In Android, it works really well. So, like I said, because Wi-Fi is hubless, that's a big focus of us going forward, that we're adding 3 new Wi-Fi devices now. Previously, we just had the one smart plug before that. So, yeah?
For For those of us that are do-it-yourselfers and also experimenters, developers maybe, is there a way for a device to be part of two networks simultaneously, and or is it easy to switch the device from one network to another, and can it switch back, rejoin, or is that, those are all problems and you just have to go through the time to...
Yeah, unfortunately it's device specific. So ZigBee cannot be dual homed. Z-Wave also can't be dual homed, but you can have remote control devices that can pair the Z-Wave network that can then control those devices. So I mentioned before, like you have the Vera network, and then an Iris network can join that as a secondary controller. Now both of those controllers and any remotes talking to them can control all those devices.
The controller joins the network, and
yep.
And what about monitoring? Can you join a monitoring tool so that you can start understanding what's going on to the Iris network?
Sure. On the Z-Wave side, they do sell tools like that, and they are allowed to join. Certainly, once we are 100% compliant, then it'll all be allowed to join. Right now, you're going to be joined in this weird provisional state, so I'm not entirely sure. If that thing, for example, said, oh, I'm a light bulb, and then joined, and then sent these commands, it would work. But if it joins and says, oh, I'm a network controller device, we might say, well, I don't know what that is. So you'd be in this provisional state, and I don't exactly know is the real answer. I think it actually would work, but I'm not sure. But at the end of the year, maybe January, when we are compliant, then we'll definitely be allowed to join. We have to allow that to join, so then that will work. On the ZigBee side, I'm not aware of any such tools. I mean, you can get a ZigBee sniffer and then just sniff the traffic, and I do that all day long. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, but there's also no control there or anything else. Right. It's literally just a promiscuous sniffer.
That's the word. When you're going to your new hub, are you going to go through the same hub 1 to hub 2 that you did, where that was you have to get rid of your old hub?
No. So in fact, it's kind of the opposite. So that was the sort of like, okay, well, our first hub had some issues with it, and it was problematic for various reasons, so we really needed people to change. Now it's not the case, so we actually really don't want you to change. Okay. So if you have a hub, you have a big network, we strongly recommend you not change.
By the way, I was a big fan of your first hub because it actually did more feature function than your hub 2 does. Like it's actually talked, it formed words and told you what was going on and things like that?
Yeah, so the 3rd generation hub does talk.
Okay.
Brought it back.
We brought the voice back.
You brought it back.
And
it was annoying for some people.
So yeah, I liked it too. I mean, I actually, to be honest, worked at AlertMe first, and AlertMe was the company that manufactured that hub for Iris. And when they were shutting that down, they hired me out of AlertMe. And I'll talk about some other stuff like that in more detail. But I actually love that hub, and it did 100% everything local processing. All the rules got downloaded to the hub, and I'm pretty sure we have a couple customers like this. You could have unplugged it, and it would still be working today, because you can't change your rules, but those rules would still be working today, or add devices or anything. But everything was local, and without an internet, it would work forever.
When can we order a 3rd generation hub?
I believe the date is 13 days, and we're still having some issues with things, so it's stressful that I was here to, but 13 days is the number. I don't know what 13 days. I literally don't even know the date. I literally know I have 13 days is all I have.
Yeah. It will definitely be available online prior to installers. So.
And it will mostly work.
Over-the-air updates.
Over-the-air updates, right? So in 17 days, it will really work. So any other questions on this? And I'm going to...
calendar in your Excel?
Calendar? So we haven't talked about something like that, so I'm just curious, but maybe we'll come back to it. So I don't know that we need to go into this slide too much. I did want to highlight a couple things on this one. So we do have Nest support. That was something that a lot of people asked for a long time, and then when we did support it, nobody really used it. Lutron's another one. A lot of people I know that have, like electricians, for example, they want Lutron lights in their house. I don't know. I mean, the interface, I think you mentioned it to me as well, actually. And the controls are actually awesome. The plus, minus, and on and off, and everything. There's beautiful stuff. So we have Lutron support now. Lutron's the one you need a gateway for. Yes, you need the bridge device on the Lutron. Leviton also has a bunch of really nice dimmers and switches in wall, and we support all those devices as well, both ZigBee and Z-Wave. Although they market it under different names here, I wrote my notes down. ZigBee is Lumina, and they don't even tell you that that's actually ZigBee. And the Vitsia is the Z-Wave stuff. And again, because the standard stuff, they actually do say that that is Z-Wave. So that's the one thing I kind of wanted to highlight here. But any other questions on this?
Do you support Insteon? Or is that just competitive?
We don't support Insteon. Insteon is the power over electricity, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. No, we do not support that.
Assuming most of your integrations with like Lutron and stuff are all cloud-based integrations where you're joining one account to the other and building it that way?
So maybe I should go through that. Yeah, so Nest is cloud to cloud. That's all they would let us do. Honeywell is cloud to cloud. That's all they would let us do. Hue, I think Laura mentioned this, that's a bridge. So it's locally controlled, like by a phone, and our hub locally talks to their bridge so that you can then control those things remotely. So it actually gives you a little bit more control, but it needs that bridge device, but no cloud. Lutron is the exact same thing there. It's a bridge, so it's hub to bridge communication, not cloud.
Nice.
And now you're saying how nice that is. I'm 99% sure that's true. Yes, I'm positive. That's how it works. You have to add the bridge to our device, and it's bridge to bridge, hub to bridge. But Leviton is direct device. Like I said, it's just ZigBee and Z-Wave, so we just support all those devices separately. And then GE, Z-Wave, those are our big sellers that we sell a lot of in the stores, and those are all direct devices that talk directly to the hub. And that's what I have in my house, is a full house of GE. So this is what I really want to talk about, because this is sort of my passion, and I think why Lowe's originally hired me 3 some odd years ago. Interesting devices that not everyone else does. And we used to do a number of these, and we haven't really done one in a while. I think I'm about to start working on my 4th motion sensor, which doesn't interest me, obviously. It's a motion sensor, it's ZigBee. It's motion, there's no motion. We can change the timeout, ooh. But these kinds of devices interest me, so if you can keep asking me questions, we can go through the whole hour, but I do have other slides as well, so take your pick as to whether or not you want me to talk about this more or talk about other stuff. So Pet Door, we actually don't sell this one anymore. The problem with it was a massive pet door, so you had to basically cut a hole in your door. It was about 1.5 by 2 feet. And if we did sell a couple hundred of them, and we do still support them. And obviously, it's just a door lock, right? It's locked and unlocked. This actually had a couple of interesting features which I thought were neat, where it also had an RFID tag, so you could be locked, unlocked, or in RFID active mode, where if your dog was wearing an RFID, they could get in and out, or you could, basically not have one of those and let your dog in or out. But we also supported knowing whether your dog was, or something, was in or out, meaning that the flap, did the flap go this way first or did the flap go that way first? And so we process that as well, and so we can keep track of, for you, we of course assume it's your dog that's going in and out. And if there's an RFID tag, we do our best to sort of know, like, was the RFID active, meaning in the 3 or 4 foot radius when it was pushed through, but we have no way of knowing if something else came in your house at that time. And that was just a really interesting project to me. It was really the first thing that I started working on when I got hired. To be honest, I think they were having trouble with it, and they hired me because they needed help. But anyway, that was really interesting. And then obviously scheduling the locks and unlocks, that was interesting. Our first generation product, we did scheduling in the hub and in the device. And now that scheduling is all done on the hub, which is not as interesting to me. So irrigation was another one that we did. So these are the standard devices we still sell today. They are supposedly standard ZigBee, but I wrote that spec. There's really no such thing as a ZigBee irrigation device. when you do start sort of writing your own specs for everything, you realize that open close sort of goes a long way. You know, I'm going to open this irrigation device and it's going to start watering, and then I'm going to close the irrigation device, it's going to stop watering. The irrigation company was really pretty adamant that we couldn't just go with that. We needed an off time. So like if it started watering and then the hub went offline or the network went offline, they had been sued for flooding people's lawns and other things and that kind of thing. So we had to do basically an open with time, or an on with timed off. And there is that in the standard, but it's in milliseconds. So obviously we don't want to do milliseconds, so we had to kind of hack that up a little bit and do an open with timed off in seconds. So we use this manufacturer-specific protocol for that. And then one of our irrigation devices was 12 zones, so we had to do that with endpoints. And that was stuff that hadn't really been done before, so we were writing a lot of custom code for that, which I thought was really cool, but it took a long time. So.
What about a dimmer bank?
So that's a really cool application that, as far as I know, nobody does it. I thought,
What was that again?
so a dimmer bank.
Like, Crestron lighting control?
Yeah, so Crestron probably does support it, right? Yeah. So for $300 a dimmer, you can you can do that. Yes.
For any of your rules, can you check like the weather to say, is it rain? Don't water my lawn or anything like that yet?
Yeah, let me just answer this, but I'll come back to that because that's a really good question. I don't know anybody in the standard side that does a dimmer bank in the notion that, you know, I get one wireless device and then I can wire devices with endpoints just locally. And that would be really neat as well, because I do my house all by myself often, and these, you know, I'm pulling out these switches that are about that thick, and I'm putting in these switches that are 2.5 inches thick, and they barely fit there, and all the wires are in there, and you start screwing it in, and the wires come loose, or it shorts, and, you know, like, so that would then have one big thing, and then all the other things could be much smaller, because all they are is just the circuitry of turning something on and off. But to my knowledge, nobody actually supports that. So
There's a GE one that was supposed to come out, but I didn't know if...
No, so I talked... So a company called Jasco has the rights to all the GE dimmers and in-wall stuff, the standards-based stuff, not light bulbs though. And I talk to them all the time, and yeah, they have sort of a prototype of it. They also have a really cool capacitive touch stuff that's coming, but not out yet. And the problem there is, like, so you have a really cool capacitive touch here, but if you have a two-way switch, they don't have a capacitive two-way. So you need this ugly Decora switch over here while you have this really fancy Decora, capacitive touch thing here. So that doesn't seem usable to me. But they are really neat, and they look a lot nicer. You know, the plastics feel a little plasticky. I think even in the Control 4 system that I used to have, it's a $120 dimmer, but it doesn't feel nice. The Crestron for $300 feels like $300. So a rain sensor. So the answer is no, actually. It's something we've thought about, either probably more so integrating with AccuWeather or something like that. All the different irrigation devices we do support have something local that you can wire in, and then they short out the, so the problem with them all is that we say, okay, water, and then it has some switch that's on your roof, and the wire comes down, and then that shorts it out so it doesn't water. So in your app, it says, oh, I watered, and it didn't water. And maybe that's just wet, or maybe there's leaves gumped in it or whatever else, and so it's not watering and you don't know. So we don't really recommend those, but Orbit is the company we work with. They do have that. And they have a Wi-Fi device which we're contemplating integrating with, and they have a smart mode for watering. And that smart mode takes into account whether or not they think it rained in your neighborhood or not. I live in Mooresville, like way out by past the point, so there's no good weather stations anywhere near me. And so it always rains near the nearest weather station. They say, oh, we're not going to water. And then my grass is dry and I have to manually water it, which is really annoying.
I mean, simple hack, but you have leak sensors, right?
Yes.
So you can detect the presence of water, right?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in the water thing. Yeah, we totally could do that. And the thing is, you need, so most of our leak sensors, and I hate to admit this, are not actually waterproof. So in a real...
One job, that's what it's got to do.
In a real flood, it needs to be replaced. So I've had a couple of small, low puddles, and those are fine. You just pick the thing up and let it dry out, and it's totally fine. But if the water goes over an inch, those don't work. And we do have one that's I forget the word, so we call that a hockey puck. and I'm going to demonstrate this in a little bit. And so this is the one, actually, that, as you can see, there's little air gaps in here, and that gets right into the circuitry, and the battery shorts out, and that kind of thing. We do have one that has a wire, and then you can place that up, and then that can get wet all you want. So we could do something like integrate it with that, but we don't really own that one. That's a Z-Wave device that isn't really sort of anything like our technology. That would be the kind of thing we do, and it's on the sort of wish list. It's a great idea that I like a lot.
Our wish list gets longer and longer every year.
And that's the thing, is that kind of thing is at the bottom of the wish list, unfortunately. So yeah, so irrigation was one that, the second project I guess I kind of worked on that I really liked. Blinds was not particularly interesting. I just kind of threw it up here because it's typically a pretty expensive solution elsewhere. And with the Z-Wave devices we have, it's actually still an expensive add-on for a blind, but blinds themselves are pretty expensive. But it is one of the more affordable ways of doing it is through Iris with the Z-Wave system. The hot water heater is something that was an interesting project. I mentioned this. The hot water heaters themselves aren't that interesting, and you can imagine what you can do, how much water is in the tank, schedule it, because I actually moved to England for a couple of years when I worked at Alert.me, and I was having 300-pound, about $425 electric bills, and it was my hot water heater that was just on all the time. And until I figured out how to turn that to a setting, and then basically turn off all the hot water heater, much to my wife's chagrin, my hot water heater went down a lot. And then I figured out how to set a timer on it, and then we were all okay. Until she woke up in the middle of the night and then had no hot water, so I was in the doghouse again. But the thing that was actually neatest about that is we had this, because we couldn't have hot water heaters running in our desks, the company that was working on it had to create these test rigs for us. And they had lamps, basically, that were running the heaters, and it had the little module on it that we could test with. And that thing was a fire hazard. Again, at the time, I was working in the UK on that particular project, and they wouldn't even touch them. They would not plug them in. So we had to totally rewrap them and do a bunch of the work here in the US and everything. It was really kind of funny. And then the water softener is something, I don't know how many people actually have water softeners. Any big water softener people here? In the north, I think there's more common because you have hard water coming in from the city. But I remember my dad, when I was a little kid, he would have to climb under the stairs and then put extra salt in there and recharge it and all this stuff. And now, a lot of that stuff is automatic. And then you can just be notified that it's happening, and then eventually the salt totally depletes and you need to replace it, and you just get notified of all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those complex things. Lowe's actually sells them. And so it's a neat thing to sort of say, all right, it's a complex state machine, system in your house. Let's make it easier to use, and there's apps, information in the app about what you're actually doing in that particular case. And like I said, I'm doing my 4th motion sensor right now. That's really the first part of the list for interesting devices, and there hasn't really been that much else that I've been working on. The next one that I would want to call out is Halo. It's actually one of the old engineers from that group there. And they were a local company, actually right down here. So Josh is the one that's in the audience here, but Ben was one of the founders, and he just has great stories about why. Maybe Josh can actually talk to that in a second. But you think about connecting a smoke detector, and we have a Z-Wave smoke detector that's probably one of the most boring devices we have. Smoke is detected, smoke's not detected. It's actually less interesting than motion. But their thought was, well, what else could we do with this device, right? We've got this thing in almost every room of your house. Well, they put full color LEDs, and it could indicate all sorts of state. I don't think we ever finished implementing this. No, we didn't actually, but we built the sort of system to sort of indicate all the state that Iris could do. Is there water detected in your house? Is there an alarm in all different colors that it would have, and voices that it would say, water detected. So throughout your whole house, you could hear water detected as opposed to just a siren. And because that's what happened to me the first time I had a water leak. It was just a siren, and the baby's sleeping, and you're like, what is that siren? I don't know. And you pull your phone out, and maybe your phone's dead, or it's in the other room, or So water detected in the kitchen would be very, very nice to be told to you at that point in time. And then they put tons and tons of sensors in it. In particular, the best sensor they had in it. Well, yeah.
So, hey, idea, suggestion, whatever. What you really need in Iris is the battery low to give you some specificity on your website or anywheres. I mean, because when battery's low and these devices start doing this 1 chirp a minute, that's just like the most annoying thing in the universe. I don't, you know, maybe baby's crying.
So it's actually ironic, and I read about this, like, so the chirp does not wake my baby up. And I read about it, and it doesn't. They are more tuned to voices. So if they hear voices in the other room, they'll be more likely to wake up. But this digital chirp sleeps right through it, right in our own bedroom. It's a miracle.
The chirp, though, is that it's not directional. It's very, very hard to figure out.
Oh, yeah.
You want to find the device.
Yeah. We certainly hate the chirp. And again, I'm going to let Halo talk for a little bit, but that was one of their big things, was we can get rid of the chirp, you know, and that was the big push. And to your point, exactly, we are working on that. We have gotten that feedback. The problem is all of our different devices have different highs and lows, right? And so we get some number, either 0 through 5 or, you know, 0 through 100 or 2.9 volts or whatever, and it's sort of every device is different. So we actually have this project in place to go through all the different data and actually track, like, how much time is left for each different device at each different value. And then what I'd like to do is actually do data collection from your house, right? Like that, we're going to start from our given model, but how is your house doing? Is your house actually using less? Like if your motion sensor is not used much, or if your temperature sensor is more static, your battery is going to die slower than someone else's house. And we have some static model for it. We can actually develop a better model for your house based on the data of the last 2 weeks or however. So I think that's the right project to do, and it's just taken too much time, and so we haven't actually done it. But we're taking baby steps there. And right now on device, this has nothing to do with the chirp per se of the Z-Wave devices. I assume you're talking about the Z-Wave smoke detectors, because I think that's the only device we have that chirp. But
no, sirens chirp. It's lots of.
The sirens chirp on low battery?
Sirens chirp on battery.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
A lot of devices. Yeah.
Door locks make noises. That's right. Yeah.
Do the door locks alert for your?
They beep, actually. Yeah. So that's what I was getting at. So because we never did this project, what we have right now is what we think is good battery. It says okay, and then we have a low marker. We've actually changed that relatively recently, so I don't know if you noticed. So I believe it's below 30%. We start showing you the number. And like I said, that number may or may not be 100% accurate, but now you're actually seeing that number. And we're going to tweak that system to give you more information on that side of things.
Based on the usage model and not on the actual device report.
Right now, it's based on the device report only.
Okay.
And what we want to do is base it on the usage model.
So once it gets around that 30%, you want to take a look at changing your batteries. But it's a common request. I mean, a lot of people ask for battery consumption.
So I'm thinking of like a mode or something where you can go in and activate a mode to have it go into a more continuous chirping so that you can locate it faster.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, you put these things around your house, sometimes you hide them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't, and so it says, like, I don't know how I've got mine labeled, but it will tell me one of my sirens is the battery low, and it's chirping, and now I have to go figure out which one it is.
Or probably if it's next to a duct, right? Because then it just gets...
If it's one of the smoke sensors, it's the same thing. Like, I may have labeled it correctly, and I know exactly which one it is, but I may not have done that.
So like I said, sometimes there's a mismatch.
I'll just be annoyed for an hour.
So sometimes there's a mismatch between what the device thinks and what it's telling the app, because of it. We don't really have that data model that I described. But you should, if the app is saying low battery, it should say, you know, kitchen siren is the one with the low battery, right? Or is it happening that that's not?
But yeah, not really.
It depends on whether I was thoughtful enough to label it correctly. When, you know,
Oh, again, I see. Siren 1, right. Doesn't really matter where the siren is.
Other smoke detectors have the same problem, whether they're in a monitored network or not. They may go into a more continuous beeping, but everybody who goes into low power mode, somebody designed it so that that's like 1 beep a minute. It's not enough to locate.
I believe the UL requirement, Josh will fix this, is a minute or 30 seconds? I thought it was 30 seconds. It's 1 minute, okay.
30 I don't, it's just enough for you to not be able to figure out where
You also
it is.
have to last 30 days, so they make, you don't want to be beeping.
Somebody told me that I would rather it go into continuous beeping and say, fix my battery now, than it doing the 1 minute thing.
Yeah, I really like your idea, though, of from Iris putting it in some identify mode because of the low battery or something.
Exactly.
On command, that would be
That's
great.
the suggestion.
What was your question, I'm sorry?
I was just saying, all of them have a green LED, just add a red LED to it too.
Yeah.
The green LED is only on the ones that have line power. So the ones that don't have line power are just blinking LEDs pretty slowly. So, but if they have line power, then yeah, they could. But that's the kind of thing, is that it could also, you could put it in some mode where it could talk to you or something. I don't know, Josh, do you have something better to say about
No, I just
low
think
battery?
it's funny. I've been working on a lot of new projects lately, and it seems like we're all going back to this innovative moment where it's like the cordless phone paging. Like that's some big new, right? Like we all just like, I want to go in the app, hit page, and if it starts, that kind of thing. But yeah. No, I mean, it's typically you're just trying to last the 30 days, and you're just, to your point, you're just barely flashing that LED.
Right, so I don't know if I ever caught that. So UL requirement is that when you start chirping, you have to make it 30 days, and the UL tests that pretty tightly. So you can't be doing something that's too battery, whatever, demanding.
Let's, by all means, let's make sure we comply with the federal government standards instead of making it convenient for the user.
100%. And another thing I'll mention about the Halo project is, yeah, right. But before they got to UL, we were like, all right, we're going to do all this, and then when they hit UL, it wasn't quite as much. It was got squeezed in just a little bit. Last thing I'll talk about in this one is the NOA radio, which is on the Halo Plus. Is just really kind of cool. It just starts talking to you when there's an alert that you want. And I mean, a lot of people in this room might have a radio in their house just plugged in the wall all the time. I never really had one before. So having one now, and when it starts telling you, oh, there's flooding in your location or whatever else, it's just kind of interesting, So any other questions?
If this then
Sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I didn't see if this then that integration, was wondering if that was coming. And
Which
if
one?
Not, if this then that integration.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't have it right now. We've talked about doing it. As Laura mentioned, we have quite a cookbook of recipes of our own, and if I get to them now, I'm not sure I will. A couple of examples of 2 or 3 ones, maybe I can just talk about them now since you're asking about it, but is the water leak to turn a valve off. And that's relatively complex, and if this, then that, and usually you need 1 or 2 systems to connect and everything. And here it's like literally you just pair the 2 devices, check a box on the rule, and then say if you want to be notified or not, and it's super fast. So
what about to put that on steroids, a RESTful API into the Iris system so that you could actually interact with it with another bot type application? Yeah, we talked about bots too. I don't think we've ever talked specifically about a RESTful API exposure. I mean, everything we have inside is RESTful APIs talking to other things, but we have not talked about exposing one of those. We have talked about sort of an SDK for your things. A lot of what I'm going to talk about here, and it's probably good that my coworker just left. SmartThings does almost everything we do, if not everything. The one thing I'd say is our app is better rated. I've heard good things about their app, and I've heard bad things about their app, and the same about on ours. We do have about 1.5, maybe a little more than that, points on top of them on their app. I only looked at iOS. I'm not entirely sure what those numbers are on Android, but I assume they'd mirror it somewhat. So SmartThings allows you to write your own drivers. And so for whatever device you have out there, you can write a driver. It's funny, their drivers look exactly like our drivers. So what I suggested to our team is maybe someday we should just support their drivers. And we've been talking to SmartThings about a bunch of things, not that one specifically, but that might be the way we do it. Just calling that the de facto standard and doing that. None of this is something that's going to come anytime soon, but those are all things that we have talked about for the future.
So you could develop things that could attach to yours, but you don't have an SDK to make it easy. Is that what I'm hearing? You said it's standard-based.
I have an SDK. That makes it very easy. And I think ours is actually ever so slightly, actually a fair bit better than SmartThings, but the chance of them switching to ours is 0. So that's why I would suggest moving over to theirs. But I can onboard a device in less than a day if your device is done and working. Well, if it's MSP, then give me 2 weeks. But if it's a standards-based device, I could do that in less than a day. And then it would just be a question of pushing that driver out to the platform to then get that, such that you could then use that. And we're open to doing that. We have done that with a number of sort of trial things, like a lot of Z-Wave devices will be like that, where, we have a developer who don't know what he's sort of in between projects right now. Well, why don't you go to the store and buy a bunch of devices? So, especially a lot of the Z-Wave devices, you'd be surprised what works. And, you just pair it to the system and it actually works and has a really nice driver. The biggest problem there is always user interface. If it doesn't have a user interface, now I've got to talk to that team that has the really long backlog, and they'll say, oh, well, how many users want to buy this? And if it's, less than 1,000, then I get funny looks. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a project and you've talked to someone else about, a water sensor, flow monitor type thing, if you start to build that and get a number of the pieces out there, it would be easy for us to just add the driver and then see what happens. Well, flow, I need a user interface for that, so that's actually a bad example. But we could hack together some simple user interface, that kind of thing, and make that work.
You know what would really sell a lot of that, whenever I'm explaining this to people that are not us, is automatic plant watering. I stuck a moisture sensor in, put it on an Arduino Uno, and then I've got an $8 release valve. You pretty much already have all of that stuff. Yeah, and I actually love that because that's something you go to Lowe's for, right? You buy those things at Lowe's, and yet, I can't get much demand. I also have a pool, and I have some slides about this as well. And people come to Lowe's for pools, not a lot, but there's a pool section there, and people come for it, and then we have zero interest in pushing that. But plant watering, I think, is a great one, and there are some do-it-yourself projects online that are just great for that exact thing. It's a little expensive. I believe it's a whole Arduino for each plant, but you could probably daisy chain them together somehow if all your plants were together. Well, there was a SmartThing shield for the Arduino, so just nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Iris can make an Arduino shield. Yeah, it's not in our target area, but no, yeah, that's the kind of thing that, like, yeah, he's been talking about that for a long time. Yeah, I could probably throw together a kind of driver for that kind of thing and make it public right now. And for the first time, we have this thing called populations, where I can move hubs. I can make things available to a population and then move hubs into it, so that if we break something, we're only breaking your things. And so that literally just got done maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So that now is my tool that I can actually use to do that kind of thing for projects that this group might have. So that's cool. So
when you said anything standard can link to Iris right now, and you said you had one day to onboard a device. Do you have to go and look at each manufacturer's device and put it in a list that Iris will then identify? Or can I take something that you don't know about today and try to pair it with Iris, and you may or may not find it?
So it's a whitelist right now.
Okay. And when you get to Bluetooth, I imagine the Bluetooth support is going to be something similar to what I just said. Anything that's got a Bluetooth spec.
Yeah, I mean, the Z-Wave people don't like us so much because we're whitelisted only, and that's why they started clamping down on us. So we will support all Z-Wave functionality come, let's say early next year, because we have to. And Bluetooth, yeah, if that's what the standard is, then that's what we'd have to do. I know the mesh standard pretty well. I actually haven't really looked at above GAT much at all. So I believe you, and I'm not sure. So I believe you. Actually, no, you had your hand up first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, BATA, is that a company you work with for all the IoT thing, or they are just your supplier or something?
What's the name?
BATA, Beta.
Beta. Okay, so Beta has no connection to Iris. Actually, technically, has no connection to Lowe's either. They are a third party that Lowe's hires. They're in 70 stores. Lowe's has over 1,800 stores. And they're in 70, and it's their employees. They're trained to know about smart home, and we make it available to our vendors. I believe we pay a small fee to be in there as well, and any one of our vendors would have to pay a fee to be in there. And the fee makes sense. It's for their training, and you have to be available to do that training for them. And they actually know a lot about SmartThings and a couple of the other hubs. I've actually went in there talking to one of them, and they know a lot more about SmartThings than they do about our hubs.
Yeah, your security system, actually, what you were mentioning, that 999, so they were the one explaining. And
Yeah, they know a lot more about the interworkings of all this than anyone will in the aisles at Lowe's. There are a number of people that do, but it's few and far in between. Someone else was back, yeah, there.
So we're talking about, someone mentioned Arduino Shield, and looking at both from an advertising perspective for Lowe's and Iris, but also community outreach, and, being able to take and put Lowe's dollars back into the community. Are you guys looking at doing like STEM projects and stuff for, basically bringing Iris into the schools so that now the children can use it as a STEM project, but then they go home and they say, "Hey, Dad, I saw this cool thing," and now so the dad wants to go out and buy it. So it's this great mix of marketing and community, and the whole bit. It's kind of. Have you guys looked at trying to do something like that?
It's absolutely amazing what can be done there, and what I've seen done at place. Your project as well is just great in that space. So I mentioned before, we've got it on a roadmap to do some kind of an SDK or some kind of an interaction so that you can do your own device. And whenever that kind of project comes up, it's after that. So I don't really know much about what Lowe's as a broader charity organization has planned for this space. But Iris, once that's available, we'll probably look into that on sort of a more local, just because it's just me and the other people in my team. But I don't think Lowe's has education as sort of high on their list of charity. They're often putting money into hurricane relief and that kind of thing. Things that, to be a little cynical here, makes them money on the other side, of things. But and that makes sense as a shareholder value kind of thing. So yeah, I have not heard education sort of high on the list. Not to say that it's not anywhere. I wouldn't know if they had charities, smaller charities like that. But I think it's a great thing to push, to push.
Most of these products are after the home is built. How about building a smart home, and do you have 200 amp breaker panels and things like that would?
So everything that we've ever gone after is aftermarket. That makes a couple of exceptions. Sort of like this needs a plumber to sort of come in and install it. The control valve, the water control valve. The in-wall switches are something that, I do all mine aftermarket. It would certainly be easier to do if it were sort of while the house was being constructed. But we don't have anything special, nothing in the control panel. And when we did have a control panel product, it was aftermarket as well. It was clamps that went around the bars to monitor power. And we haven't even brought that back yet. So yeah, that's just a focus of what what Lowe's sells most of.
This is really fascinating. I had a question about the data part.
Sure.
With all these devices, do the data go back to the manufacturers, or does it come back to Lowe's where you can track with one individual? Yeah,
that's a good question, and I was gonna talk about that somewhere. Where? So here was the one I was gonna talk about for cameras. So Laura mentioned a lot of the details here. Most of our customers, well, I actually don't know the numbers at all, so I shouldn't say that. We offer, 3 plans. Basic, which is free. We call it, I don't know what we call it. Professional, I think is what we call it. And it provides basically storage. There's a couple other small features, but generally speaking, it's storage for a month of camera footage. And then there's professional monitoring, which is separate, that really only pertains to contacting the police or not. And most of that money goes to the contact center anyway, which isn't us. If you, like I use the professional system, which is $9.99 a month, and it gives me 30 days of storage, which works for me. All that data is being stored in our cloud. And you have access to it in the app. you know, you can't go back to some random point in time and say, what was happening in front of that camera at 4:55 p.m.? But if there was a motion event and you've got the right rule checked, you can then find the clip that covers that time and then find that clip. And like I said, it's 30 days going back. All the cameras we support, except for that one, which we don't technically support yet. So for the next 13 days, all the camera we support have what's called local streaming. So you just go into the app and there's a local internet address that you can find, and then if you have NVR in your house or get that kind of app, you can point it at that address via RTSP or 3 or 4 different protocols, I forget them all, and then do whatever you want with that data. So now it's on your NVR in your house, or you can use some of these NVRs to push to your own other cloud stuff. And this is where the basic, you know, package $0 works really well. So like Laura was saying, you can stream, but you can't do anything else, right? So it's the NVR app that's going to be streaming either 24/7 or on your own motion rules or whatever. And this is where, you know, I think if you're concerned about your data being in the cloud, then this may work for you. You know, your account data is still in the cloud, but you can obviously put fake account data in there. You know, you don't need a credit card anymore for this. So, but if you're really that concerned, you probably should get rid of your phone too. So
you're saying on the basic plan you can store footage on your own memory?
yeah, so all the phones also support SD cards. I'm sorry, phones. All the cameras support SD cards, again, with the exception of the new one coming out, the Wi-Fi battery-operated one. So all the existing cameras, including the one we're going to give out later, support local storage on the SD card, but then also local streaming, such that you could grab that data off onto your own device, or obviously you could grab a PC and write some Python code to be grabbing that as well, however you wanted to do it, or Arduino or whatever if it has enough storage. But these NVRs are particularly built for that, purpose-built for that. I actually don't know how much money they are.
I use Blue Iris.
Yeah. Okay.
On PC.
Yeah, and that's free, was it, or?
There is a free version, but
okay.
for $40 for unlimited license,
okay.
I have a SSL connection to it.
Right, and so you could just beef up the disk storage and store months and months of data.
How big the hard drive is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could
it dumps off to my NAS.
Years of data. Your whole house going back to the beginning of time.
Triggers feed into my smart things for
right.
lights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was whose question was that? I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just have follow-up questions. I think this is with regard to the video recording, but with individual devices, so there's probably data generated. You had earlier mentioned that you can monitor a house and see how things are being utilized.
Yep.
Based on that, you can. So is that data being kind of going back to Lowe's or?
Yeah, and so that's what I was saying about the phone. So this is camera data.
Sure.
If you're in basic plan, we don't store any of your camera data. It's not on our clouds at all. Your motion data does still get stored on our servers for about 2 weeks. It then ages out. So we don't really store it and save it for all time. We don't really care when you come home or leave. But we do store it primarily for debugging purposes. If you call up and say, oh, well, this stopped working or whatever, it's log data, effectively, what I'm talking about, that we do actually store. And then I think if there's anything else that we do store. I can't really think of anything though, but.
I think there's probably an opportunity for AI-related application. As you kind of mentioned, all these devices connect back to Iris. Does the standard allow you to kind of coordinate these devices as well? Like somebody, you open the door and suddenly the temperature is controlled, and not sure if all these devices can talk to each other.
Yeah, so that's what the rules and scenes let you do. So you could. It's very easy to set it up to, if the door opens, then turn this light on. So we have key fobs that detect presence. We're working on phone perimeter, what's that called? Geofencing, thank you. We're working on geofencing as well, but many other people already support this, so we're a little bit behind on that one. But yeah, so your key fob comes home, you can then set a temperature based on that kind of thing, turn certain lights on, and during certain times of day, so you can execute one scene during the day, a different scene if you come home at night. If your garage door opens, you can execute a scene versus your front door. So all that is sort of pretty easy to do with our app and the rules and scenes that are available.
Have you guys thought of connecting to like Tile?
Yeah, so Lowe sells Tile, and so the vendor talks to me all the time about supporting Tile, but we don't support it. Like I said, we haven't really turned our Bluetooth thing on yet, so we didn't want to turn it on.
They have a problem with cloud to cloud, I would think.
Oh, yeah. Cloud to cloud, I mean, so we did it for Nest because we had to. Cloud to cloud is this dirty word, you know, because it's like if something goes wrong, who do you call, you know? And to be honest, Lowe's has a better call system than anybody else. So you're going to call Lowe's, you're going to complain to Lowe's, and it's just tough, you know. You know, so you create the lawyers then create these terms of service and whatever it's called,
service level agreements.
Terms. Thank you, service level agreements, and who is actually going to police it or anything else. So it's really tough. Obviously, with Nest, that's what everyone's doing. So we had to jump on that. And generally, it's Google, so they don't really have much downtime. But it's just tough. So Tiles, cloud to cloud.
Maybe it's not. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know either. So like I said, the vendor asked me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll look into it. And then I never looked into it because my boss told me not to. So I hope he's not watching.
What are some of the
Sorry.
other additional features of the Pro version besides the cloud storage?
So the big one, which was the biggest complaint for the longest time, was rules and scenes. And then SmartThings went free with that, so we had to follow suit with free with that. I have to check to make sure. I think the one other thing are a certain number of rules which are for care. And so that was one other thing I did want to talk about. And so care is basically primarily think about aging in place. So if you have parents, you know, we have a number of videos on this where testimonials of users who are attempting to monitor their parents, that kind of thing. Nobody really wants to be spied on. You don't want cameras around your house. You don't even really want to know when the door is opening and closing. But you want to be able to create sort of specialized rules, you know. Notify me if there's no motion detected in the house until at 10 a.m. If there's no motion in the house, notify me. My mom never sleeps that late, so something's wrong, you know. Put a contact sensor on the medicine cabinet, you know. If the medicine cabinet hasn't opened 3 times today, notify me. On the refrigerator, you know, if the refrigerator normally opens 5 or 6 times a day, notify me if it hasn't opened at some given time. If a door is left open too long, or if it opens in the middle of the night, you can be notified about that kind of thing, for wandering off kind of thing. And then obviously we have the panic button pendants and all that kind of stuff. But this is some of these rules, and I just can't remember if this is in that category or not. I'd have to come back to you. It was for a while. I believe we took these out of that category as well, but I'm not entirely sure. But this was actually another feature that I did want to talk about. And I can't remember the marketing decision. We were actually going to start calling it storage. And then I can't remember that. I believe we're still calling it professional, and I believe that was just for future purposes. We may come up with some awesome feature no one else does tomorrow, and then we'd want it to be called professional, and we wouldn't want to have to change it back from storage. I believe that was why, but I don't really remember. So I'm sorry. Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess one question, with all this data going back to your cloud, does Lowe's have, or are they pursuing things like security certifications, so somebody can't build a real-time map of unoccupied homes in my city?
We're not pursuing that. So why would someone pursue that? Is this for?
Like? I mean, you know, and I do cybersecurity, and I just started doing it full time. But you know, you're saying you're collecting this data, right? It's all coming up to your cloud. If I can hack your cloud, I can then use your data to build a real-time map of unoccupied homes throughout your customer base for my burglary team to hit.
Yes, if you had.
And I may be able to turn off their alarms too, except for the local sensors that blow their ears out.
Yes, if you had access to our cloud, like our developers do, which you're assuming that you could somehow hack into, and I'm not saying you can't. You could probably build such a system on that. You know,
and that's what I'm saying is, you know, it's one of those things, cybersecurity being where it is and the threat that it is, but Lowe's not being a technology company. You know, maybe the CSO's office hasn't thought about it enough. I'm sure you have one.
You know, the CSO office, I don't think knows about us really. I don't think he thinks about us. He probably should think about us a little bit, but.
You drive up Mooresville and tell him? I assume his office is there somewhere.
I know where he is, so I shouldn't say that. He knows about us. He works just down the hall from us, but he's thinking about credit card theft and that kind of thing. But we've hired a pretty good DevOps team. You know, I don't know what to say.
I can tell you my company has one too, and they suck at security.
You know,
I'm just saying.
2 or 3 of them are supposedly specialists on it. I'm not a specialist on cybersecurity, so I couldn't really tell you if they're really good or not. Their resumes looked good. So it's not my area of expertise.
Certifications out there, and it's something you might want to pursue in the long term.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something. Yeah, certifications would be something we would need. So agree. So how are we doing on time? Do we want to close it for questions? I've got other things that nothing.
Yeah, I think that it'd be awesome if you'd come back and we can do like another cool meeting.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing I'll just close on then.
Not the next 13 days.
After 13 days, I'll come back, and then everything changes in 13 days. So, I'll just mention a little bit of my house. My house isn't that amazing. It's actually a relatively small house. But it took me a long time. Now I have GE Jasco lights and switches in every switch in my house. I'm almost done. I've got a handful to do. But, when I leave the house, I've got an all-off button. Every light in the house goes off, even the closets. I don't have to worry about, this light being left on or that light being left on.
What are you using for that button? Is it a keypad?
No, Alert, the first gen system had a bunch of buttons, and about 3 months ago they went on sale for like, I think it was 3 for $5 or something like that, or it might even been 5 for $3. So I bought like 40 of them. So I have those sort of all around my house. But generally, so we sell a number of buttons. You can actually use any one of the old key fobs. These things do show up on eBay all the time as well. But I think most of our older generation stuff is gone, and we do not have a button today. And I don't recommend our second gen buttons. Those were problematic. But our first gen buttons were really great. So that's what I use for that button. And we are working on, so Jasco is coming out with an in-wall button array. It basically fits into a lights, Decora lights switch, and it's a little remote that slides out, and then there's some buttons, and you can slide it back in, and either run scenes or do everything else like that. And that's what we're going to be adding once they're done with that. And that's a really neat system. And they have like 4 and 8 buttons, and some of them that aren't remotes as well, so they just stay there static. I can imagine that thing.
It's gone.
Yeah. So yeah, both either the remote or the not remote system, and those are really neat. And I do have a bunch of. What does that light switch do in my house, so I could replace it with one of these, It literally does nothing. I've actually pulled them out.
You flip it on and off and get a letter from a lady in Germany.
Yeah.
How much time does it take you to maintain all that, other when you're not kind of displaying stuff?
Yeah, so the one thing I'd say, I don't, I'm not like, every window on the first floor has a sensor, every door on the first floor has a sensor on it, and that's like, 35, 40 sensors, and the number of buttons. Generally speaking, those batteries are pretty good, 2-3 year type time frame, but across that many, there's always 3 or 4 dead. And when you have that many motion sensors, my thought is like, okay, I don't care, if you can break that window, somehow get into that room and not, get past that motion sensor, there's another one right there. So, I have enough of them where I don't really care, and like I'd say once a month, no, even less than that, once every other month, maybe once a quarter, I'm replacing the screens, the air filters, maybe I'll replace a few batteries, and and whenever the list gets very long, then I'll go through and spend an evening doing that, but not very much, so yeah.
Is there any system where you can connect it to hardwired sensors? So, have a standard security system where you can hardwire from when it builds a house.
Yeah, so I think, so we don't do that. There is a company though that does that. So it's a panel replacement that then sends that, decodes that sensor information and sends it back up. If you grab my business card and contact me, I know I had a conversation with someone just recently, and I did some Googling about it and found a company, and I believe they integrate with SmartThings. I'm a pretty good advertisement for SmartThings.
Yeah, there's a guy in our group, I can send you his contact, who's hacked his security system to you don't want to pay the service fees or whatever. You can hook you up with them if you want it.
I mean, they're contact closures, so you can just hook it up to a particle photon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be hard to do that, but it would be work for sure, unless you could get this guy's code. And
Yeah, in some of the systems, I think Insteon has like a panel of just on-off.
yeah, it would make sense for Insteon for sure. Yeah.
So I did Google Insteon has a Z-Wave bridge.
Yes.
But excuse me, a ZigBee bridge.
Oh, ZigBee, really?
Yes, they have a Z Insteon X10 combo module.
Okay.
But I think with Iris might be that it acts as a controller, so it puts you
Yeah,
in third.
that wouldn't work for us. So two more things actually I'm just going to mention. So when my child was trying to teach her to sleep, my wife made me take her out of the crib and put her in this, and she just would not sleep after that. She would run out. So I'd be in there and I'd try to get her to sleep. So I set up these perimeters around her room with rules. So this motion sensor goes off, she's just moving around the room, actually turn the halo on in the room, and if I'm sleeping, fine. If she goes back to sleep, fine, nothing's fine. She goes out in the hall, all the lights in my room go on. And then if she goes out in the other hall, any other motion sensor sort of around that, I get a notification on my phone that actually wakes me up. So that now she's running around, there's knives or whatever else, you know. So it literally helped me sleep a lot. And granted, I already had this network in place of all these sensors and stuff, so it was really easy to just sort of add these rules, and I've since turned them off because she's a good sleeper now. But that's the kind of thing, once you do, you know, this Metcalfe effect, I guess a lot of people call it, of, you know, the value of sensors. You don't even really know what that value is until you start to build it. And then the last thing I'll do is, you were talking about Charlotte IoT. So I'm the one that actually started the Lake Norman IoT group. We do have space in the HERT Hub on Davidson College. And so sign up. Have you set it up as a child group yet or whatever? Okay.
I haven't even looked into that.
Okay, yeah. So I believe 10 or 12 people have already signed up through, I don't know, just local search through Meetup and all that. So if you're up that way, you know, not looking to steal any members from here, but I've been stuck in traffic for an hour and a half getting down here. I've even turned around at 6:30, you know, stuck in traffic. So you can avoid doing that. We're going to mirror all these events. We're going to have our own events up there. Probably do other, you know, dual group stuff as well. So
when is the event you have there?
So the first event I have listed, well, the first event I have listed up there is this. So at least 2 or 3 people, because I couldn't do anything up there since I'm here. 2 or 3 people said they were going to come from there. I don't know if anyone actually made the trip. No. And then next month we'll mirror the Tuesday night event. I don't really have ways to do the lunch event, so we're not going to do any of the riot things, and I think that's a lot more interactive anyway. But these events here, I think if we could do that, and then maybe towards the end take some questions, remote questions or something like that, via Skype, that thing. And then I've already talked to a couple people up there. We'll probably do something like just, you know, all the members that are there just meet at a bar to sort of find out what kinds of things they want to do, where they work at, what kind of talks they want to do, and certainly I can let you cherry pick those or however that works, or maybe invite people back to yours or however else. So, all right.
Oh, we have prizes to give away.
Oh, right, yeah. So I'll do the raffle.
Do you want to do the video with the closing for that, or?
Sure, just sign us out.
Okay, so.
I'll sign us out real fast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to an awesome meeting. Chris, thank you very much for. Thanks for thanking all of us, and I'm really stoked. I hope I win some of this stuff.
Well, chances are you already have it in your pocket. It might be on your wrist. Recently popular are fitness bands with accelerometers and gyroscopes to monitor our activities and heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life.